Okay. So we get down. I mean, we climb this ladder a good, like 50 feet. And one thing that we notice too is we hear a clang clang as we climb this ladder. This ladder is not a ladder made out of wood, but of metal. And it's completely anchored into the wall. And the space is such that it's definitely like a large sized creature. It gets to, it kind of comes down. It was wider at the mouth, but only like a man-sized creature could really fit down this hole. And we just keep on climbing down. And, Captain Thelmon keeps saying, yep, that's it. Keep on going until you reach the bottom. And we can see light down below, and there seems to be stone at the bottom. And we finally, I just marked the tile, which is where the ladder is. It's more along the edge here, right, going up all the way to the surface. And we even hear resonating up high above, 50, 60 feet high. We hear clang, clang as the doors close. And, we hear a bunch of locking sounds as the doors are completely locked. And we get down to this bottom here, and we're inside this small little room here. There's a door here that we can see, and Captain Thomond comes up to the door, and he raps on it in a certain way, like a pattern. And there's a voice on the other side of the door, and they say, password, please. And he just calls out, Wispy Willow. And then they say, welcome back, Thomond. And Thomond says, we brought a special treat to Shadow's Hold. And the door opens. And let me just... Okay, door opens. And there's a man standing there. Now, I created this map, right? But it took me quite a bit of time to create this whole map and everything for Shadow's Hold. I could have went through and placed every bed, table, like all that stuff. But I saw how much time it would have taken to do that. I don't have that amount of time, so you'll have to use your imagination. Likewise, with all the people that are in here, you'll have to use your imagination because I'm not going to place a token for every single little person that's in here, okay?
Makes sense.
Yeah, so we'll just describe it and you guys can visualize it. But we get in here and Captain Thomond, there's a couple men there actually that seem to be standing guard on the outside of this door. And we start filing through. We see the rest of the hunting party that we saw kind of disperse over into this direction. And we lose sight of most of them. And they're just chatting with each other, and their voices just drown out as they turn around different corners and stuff. And, we're looking all around, and every bit of floor down here is covered with the same colored type of stone that we see. And definitely handmade. It's not a natural stone formation, but definitely these stone tiles or stone pieces, no doubt chiseled and smoothed out and made by hand. He says, Captain Thomond then talks to one of these other guards and says, would you mind going and getting Lady Agatha? We have some freshies with us, one of them being a bard. And he nods and he's looking and stuff, but he definitely looks cautious at Ghoul. And then he stops and he says, what is he? What is this creature doing in here? And Captain Thomond says he's a friend of the bards, so probably a friend of ours too. And he just shakes his head.
He's not a creature, he's a human, just like you.
And Ghoul just says, I'm not an orc. Kind of agitated. And... the guy just mumbles sure you aren't. and like goes off this direction. And he says, "No, if you don't mind, I think we should wait for Lady Agatha, but it is custom for freshies to be taken into a special area first, so that they can get acquainted with things down here. And if you wouldn't mind following me." And Captain Thomond leads us. Okay.
Is there ale in this special area?
Captain Thomond will be number 1 now, blue. And do you say that? Do you ask if we have ale?
Yeah.
Do they have ale? He says, very fine potato ale. He says, the best you'll ever drink, I imagine.
Good enough. Let's go. See Deadeye's getting excited all of a sudden.
All right. So he leads us up here. And I'm going to go ahead and just reveal this part. He opens up another set of doors. And there's some more men on the inside. Okay. So we're moving along. And then in this door here, let me reveal this. This one, though, looks quite a bit different than the others. This one has a bunch of metal bars, and it actually raises. And he undoes some latches, and he raises it up, and it just slides right up. And he enters. And he's holding it up, and he's bidding for us to enter. Okay. Now what we see when we round the corner up here, we see this long hallway. And there are some torches lit, placed it every so often so that, the place is plenty lit up. And Captain Thomond says, go on and pick one if you like. This will just be a temporary sleeping quarters for you until we figure out where to put you. He says, I apologize for it looking like a jail cell.
And I say that's exactly what it looks like.
And he says, and he looks at you and he kind of shrugs a bit and he says, well, yeah, that's what they are for any troublemakers that make their way here. And he says, again, this is just a precaution for us, but you look like good enough people. I'm sure Lady Agatha will find a place for you quick enough. And so he bids us to enter any one of these
And I say,
cells.
what if we don't want to stay here?
And he looks at you curiously and says, where else would you want to stay?
No, I mean in this underground area.
He says, well, do you have any belongings? They'll be safe in these rooms. I very much suggest
No, I'm
making
talking
yourself
the city. What if we don't want to fit in?
What if you don't want to fit in?
Yeah, what if we don't want jobs? What if we don't want to actually join your society here?
And he says, well, what else are you going to do? Live
Get
with the
hell out
shadows?
of here. I'm not going to live here, I'll tell you that.
And he kind of chuckles to himself, and he puts his hand on your shoulder, Erlon, and he says, Erlon, I'm sorry to break it to you, but there's no way off this island. No one leaves the Forsaken Isles.
And I say I'll not give up as easily as you seem to have.
And Deadeyes will actually talk inside of his mind and say, I've been on islands worse than this one.
Sarah has a
mind?
question for him.
And he looks around and he says, huh? He says, did you say you've been on a worse island, Erlon?
And you hearing voices? I didn't say that.
He says, well, one of you just said that you've been on a worse island than this one. I would definitely like to hear details of that.
And in his mind again, I'll say, much, much worse. And I'll just like give him a dead stare.
And he says, well, no doubt I'm sure you believe that island was worse, but pardon me, but you just got here. You know nothing of this place. Says this place is hell, and might as well make the best of it.
And I'll just say, well, you're not flayed alive and eating other people's eyeballs, so this place is better.
He cringes.
I actually give you a funny look, like, what?
Yeah.
No, this is all just in his
Oh,
mind.
that's right. We're not hearing this. So okay.
Yeah. And he says, he then says, how are you doing that without moving your mouth? How are you talking to me? Do that again. He's like looking at you and squinting, like he's focusing on your lips.
And in his mind, I'll just say, okay.
And he just kind of takes back and he says, you're a worker of magic as well.
And I'll just respond with more like cursed by it.
No doubt a neat parlor trick, I'd say.
Man.
So he kind of waves his hands out and says, well, while you wait and figure out whether you want to be on this island or not, like, do you want to find a place to pick a cell to rest? He says dinner's going to start soon.
I'll keep my belongings with me.
Okay.
That's
yeah,
what I
Ghoul's
say.
keeping all his... Well, we all don't have much belongings anyways because, you know...
Mostly
most
it's
of it.
weapons, and I'm not dropping those.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
tell you that
weapons,
right
exactly. So, in fact, he even mentions, Captain Thoman says, pardon me, but does your friend speak common? And he's pointing at Ghoul.
now. Why don't you ask him?
And Ghoul says, I've said I'm not an orc. And he says, oh, yes, that's right. You did. And he says, and then he looks at him and he says, you won't be needing that axe around here. And Ghoul just meets your gaze, Erlon, and you can tell that Ghoul is no doubt having fantasies in his mind about running his axe blade across this man's head. And he just lets out a grunt. That's all. He just does his Ghoul grunt. And then he says, I'll be keeping this axe with me. Thank you. And he says, your comment is better than I thought. And he says, my apologies. And he says, well, then I'll let you decide. I will go and make sure that Lady Agatha finds her way here. He says, and I'll give you a moment to yourselves.
Sarah's going to follow him.
Okay. Like so?
Yep.
Okay. The rest of us staying back behind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go lay down on a bed over here and just like rest for a little while.
Okay. And Theron, Captain Thomon stops at this point, and he turns around and he says, can I help you with something?
And he just says, not at all.
He says, I have a story to tell you. No.
No stories to tell here.
Okay. He steps, and you follow him?
Yep.
Like so?
Yep.
And he says, do you not have things to discuss with your friends?
And he says, they are not my primary concern right now.
Okay. And he shrugs, and he bends down, and he opens up this gate. And it slides up. And he goes on through. And then he seems to be waiting for you.
Can I go?
Huh?
Yes, there I'll go.
You follow him? Okay.
Yeah?
And then he closes the gate here. And he says, eager for dinner, huh?
Yeah, he just shrugged.
And his stomach growls.
He opens up these doors and comes through. Do you still follow him?
Yeah, dude, I'm following him all the freaking way.
Okay, he stops at this point, and he looks at you, and he seems pretty annoyed. And he says, what do you think you're doing?
I was like, making sure you're not up to anything of, making sure you're not up to no good, basically.
Up to no
I don't
good.
trust you. Basically, he doesn't trust him.
And he lets out a laugh. And he says, what a sad state you must be. Who else are you going to trust? Those shadow zombies up on the surface? And he says, boy, you need to relax a bit. Says, you're going to...
Theron opens his hands wide and he says, I'm unarmed. What do you have to worry about?
And he says, well, if you don't mind walking around, I suppose. And
not at all.
He says, so where are you from?
And he'll tell him. He'll say from the mountains in the west, right?
Yeah, southwest, yeah, of Weaveshire.
Southwest of Weaveshire,
Yeah.
yep.
This west of the boundary of Timria.
Yep.
And he says, oh, Timria, fine place. I've been there once, you know. And he stops it right here, and he seems to just be waiting. And, okay. And he seems to be interested in asking more questions from you while he's waiting. He's like, that was some storm we had the other night. I'm surprised that there was any survivors in a storm that size. He says, how did you guys survive?
We floated on wood.
Says, even so, no doubt the swells must have been really high. Says, you should count yourself lucky. Lucky even more that you didn't have to spend another night on the surface. And he says, so what do you do? He says, well, what did you do back home?
He says he prefers not to talk about home.
You prefer not to talk about home? Is that what he said?
Yeah, that's what he said. But he wants to know more of why. Theron wants to ask questions of why this island is, why nobody ever leaves this island, why it's so cursed, that they say.
And he says, He says, well, do you at least have a name, boy?
He says, yes, you can call me Theron.
He says, well, Theron. He says, I don't know if you noticed, but there's no ships. No ships, no way to get off this island.
Surely, if you can build a place like this, you can build a damn ship.
Yeah, no.
But I'm not there.
No, he says, no, he wants to know, why is this island called the Cursed Island? What's causing all these zombies?
Forsaken Isles.
The Forsaken Isles, okay.
Says, oh, this place has been around a while. It's always under construction, you see. He says, the Forsaken Isles. And he scratches his head and he says, I don't know, name long before my time. And he says, so we get a few stragglers here and there, some freshies who stay here for a while and then get their wanderlust and say things like they're going to figure out a way off the island, and then they leave and they never come back. I don't see how they could possibly get off the island, though. I imagine they're just those shadow creatures by now. Says, I don't know much more than that.
Okay.
And he says, and besides, even if we could get off the island, it's better for everyone that we stay here and make the best of things.
He didn't say anything to that. For that, he doesn't give a crap. Yep, so he's just going to wait then. That's pretty much the questions he has to ask.
Eventually, you see this older woman come down the hall, and you hear a click, click as her boots, her soft boots, are hitting against the stone.
Can I do something while that was going on?
Absolutely. What would you like to do?
I have thieves' tools. I want to try them on these locks. See if they can. See if they pick the locks very easily or not.
Well, with one roll, you won't be able to probably.
Yeah, I just want to see if the lock is easy or not. Just kind of stare at the lock. And
sure. So this one next to you.
Sure.
Just kind of
play around, investigate it more. Kind of really look at it and figure out if I thought that I could pick that lock if I needed to.
And one thing that you do notice as you step up to do the lock, you see blood smears in this cell. Like one here and one there.
Awesome. I'm not staying in there.
Which, again, you're very perceptive, so you have a high passive perception, so you're noticing all sorts of details. So go ahead and make a roll of your thieves' tools.
Okay. I'm not sure how to roll that. Is it just a dex check or?
I think it's sleight of hand.
Sleight of hand. Okay, perfect. That works.
Yeah, you put the lock in there, and you hear a click, and then you try opening the door, and it's locked. And then you slide the lock pick in again, and kind of wedge it just right into the tumbler, and click, and the lock seems manageable enough, and it's open again.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, so this older lady appears, and she has some streaks of gray in her hair. I'm going to check my notes here. Sure. Yeah, she has this darker hair, and she has just these silver streaks all throughout her hair. She's definitely in her older years. You know, she's probably in her 50s. Yeah, and she comes walking up, and she meets gaze with Captain Thomond, and approaches, and she says, "Oh, are they in the cells?" He says, "Well, they were reluctant to enter any cells, but they're in the area." And he says, "This one wanted to follow me in here. Not much of a talkative sort, though. Seems to be pretty tight-lipped here." And she just kind of laughs a little bit. She says, "Oh, we'll give them time, Captain Thomond." And, "Hello, I'm Lady Agatha." And she holds out a hand.
He doesn't shake it.
Good old Theron.
Heck yeah.
Let's make it
Okay.
awkward.
She leaves her hand out for a moment, and
He keeps his hand in his
you
robe.
just stare at it. And she says, "Oh, I see. An independent, feisty one, I see."
He doesn't
She
say
says,
nothing.
"We need spirit like that here, especially if you're going to stay alive." And she says, "Okay, then, where are the rest of your friends?"
And he says, my acquaintances are around the cell area.
And she pauses as she reaches right here, as she started on her way as you said that. And she stops and she turns around and she says, "Oh, are they not your friends?"
And he just shrugs. He thinks about Erlon for a second. He's just like,
She says, "Well, I am sorry for your change of circumstances, but I'm sure you'll make plenty of friends here."
Maybe you'll find your brother's killer.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah. You're going to find Lyric here having a bowl of some sort of food. It's like, "That's
After he
Lyric."
says that,
I'm just
he
kidding.
mutters to himself, unlikely.
I didn't actually say that, dude. I'm not there. Oh, you're saying down the friends thing.
Yeah, so she started
Yeah,
on her way
yeah.
again, and she heard you mumble, say "unlikely." And she comes walking over to you. She says, "Theron, was it?" And she looks at
he
you
gives a
right dead in the eyes, and she says, "Let's get one thing straight, Theron." She says, "Any troublemakers that we have here, we give them the boot right up back to the surface. And how long do you think you would last up there all by yourself? I just want you to keep that in mind."
Does she ask him that?
No, she told
No,
you that.
she didn't ask. She told you that. Well, yeah, she asked. It was a rhetorical question. She wasn't actually waiting for an answer. And with that, she turns around and...
I mean, I have a low charisma. I have an answer to give to her. If you want me to.
You play your character however you think Theron would react to your call.
And he looks at her with a grin, and he says, "Longer than you." No. Hey, this is how Theron is, man. Look at my charisma. This is exactly what he does.
As she turned, and when you said "longer than you," she just stops as she turns, and she just gives you this wicked-looking smile.
Making
It
friends
gets quiet.
already, Theron.
Yeah.
And she just gives you this wicked smile, and then she turns. She just turns away and she starts walking down. And Captain Thomond starts walking by, and he's just looking at you, and he says, "You're not a friendly sot, are you?" And he says, "If you would like, you can go on and head on to the kitchen. Dinner's going to start soon." And he points and he says, "It's just down that hall right over there." And he points over here. He says, "Just follow it down around and you'll get to the kitchen." He says, "Unless you like playing puppy dog and want to follow me around again."
He says, "I think I'll head back to my friends now." And he puts the emphasis on friends.
Okay. All right. So we're all here. You tested the lock and stuff. So, Captain Balazar, he's just saying, "I don't know about this place. Like, do you think we could trust these people? Suppose we don't have much of a choice, do we?" And Gould just, let's just see what this place is about.
I say I trust them as much as I trust those zombies. I'll be cautious but smart.
And Deadeye's, you're just kind of laying over there.
Yep, got
Laying
my eyes
down,
closed. Resting.
Yeah, you're pretty exhausted, and you're pretty sure this is a pretty safe place to relax a bit, kind of let your guard down a bit.
Yeah, I'm not carrying too much.
His cell doesn't have blood in it.
Ghoul says what?
In my cell over there, that cell I was trying the door, it has blood in it.
Ghoul squeezes past you and takes a look. He says, there's blood. And
that imp can sleep in that cell. He'll like it.
And the ghoul says, why would there be blood?
I don't know. Doesn't
And
bode well.
as Lady Agatha turns around a corner, we hear her say, the blood was from a zombie that we held in that cell for a time.
Why?
To study it, of course. And she says, I am Lady Agatha. She says, I am the main elder here. And I manage the registry.
The registry. What is that?
She says, oh, the registry is the place where everyone requests. She doesn't, I'm trying to think of the word. Not a job, but it's where people go to request station. And she says, I will explain all in due time. And she says, so let's see, how many are you? Just the 4 of you? Theron, where are you at, by the way?
Oh, I'm probably reuniting with the group. Or actually, I'm going to stay behind her.
Right here?
No, right next to the... No, not that close.
You're going to be a creeper, sniffer hair while she's talking to us.
Hey, baby.
You move Theron where you want him to be. But Captain Thomond is right here.
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
So she asked if there's just 4 of us?
Yeah.
I'd say 6 total if you count the bird.
And she's looking over your shoulder and she's like, a bird? You have a pet bird?
Well, our magic friend over there does. The one in the cell over there.
She says, oh. And she says, pardon me. And she steps through. And she takes a look. And she sees a man sleeping there. She says, oh, sorry to disturb you. You awake?
No. Sit up and stare at her.
And she says, if you wouldn't mind joining your friends, I would like to answer a lot of your questions. And we'll see about finding a place for you, you 6 to stay.
Okay, I won't say anything. I'll just stand up and start walking.
Okay.
That way.
Okay. So she looks it this way, and Captain Thomond stands right there, right next to you, Theron, and Lady Agatha stands right here. And she says, so then, no doubt you arrived, your ship went down in the storm a couple nights ago. How did you manage to survive the zombies?
By killing them.
And she raises eyebrows. She says, oh, no doubt capable warriors. And she says, some have already told me that one of you is a bard. And she looks at you, Erlon. She says, I presume that's you.
Yeah, that's what I'm called.
She says, I hear that you know healing magic.
A lot of people do.
She says, I was but a young teenager when I came on these isles, and the place is aptly named. This place is called the Forsaken Isles, aptly named because, for some reason, divine magic has no place here. The earlier people, settlers here, and she kind of stops. She says, well, if you can call them settlers, they were kind of forced into the role. And she says they adopted the name as they realized that it seems as though the gods have forsaken this place. So, alas, the name, the Forsaken Isles. She says, it is quite remarkable that you have found a way to heal.
Have I ever heard of the Forsaken Isles?
Ooh, boy.
Is this like common knowledge outside of here?
No.
Or
Not
me
at all.
for that example. For that.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, you being a sailor, gosh. I'm going to set the DC pretty high on this one, but I will because you are a bard and you're like a lore master bard especially. And then Deadeye's because you're a sailor. I'll even give Captain Balazar a roll. Theron, definitely note, like, there's nothing in your backstory or anything whatsoever that would even indicate you'd know about this place. Same with Ghoul. There's just, there's no way. But yeah, roll a history. Yeah, you haven't heard anything, Erlon.
No. All right.
I'm going to roll for the captain. Oh,
Nice.
he doesn't either.
Oh.
Yeah, DC is higher than that.
Higher than 2? No.
Yeah. Yeah, so none of us has heard of the Forsaken Isles at all.
So the thing she said about the healing magic. Sorry,
Mhm.
if you want to say something. I respond to that by saying that, well, I don't ask the gods for my magic.
And she says, and that is good. You would be a great asset to Shadow's Hold. She says, that is the name of this place, Shadow's Hold. Probably the only safe haven you'll find on the Isles.
So all these islands are cursed? Not just this one?
And she nods and she says, aye. And she says, there are those that have come washed up across on the island before you, no doubt. Many stricken with wanderlust that eventually decide they can no longer bear to live underground and they leave, saying nonsensical things like they're going to find the cure or they're going to go find a way back to the mainland. She says, but without a ship, I do not see how it is even possible.
Why not build one?
And she says the only feasible place to build the ship is in the harbor. And she says, and we stay clear of the harbor.
Because of the troll-like things that live in the water?
And she says, you have encountered them?
Not yet.
She seems completely surprised and kind of taken aback. She says, how did you already know about... Did you went to the harbor?
That's where we were when we saw the boy.
Well, we were a ways away from the harbor.
Sure, but
Yeah, definitely not at all close.
I'm just going to say that's where we were before we saw the boy. Yeah. I just tell her that.
Okay.
Yeah.
She says, well, you were lucky you didn't venture any further. The place is infested with sea trolls. And she says, much, much worse than the trolls that you're probably used to in the mainland. And she says, it's best to steer clear of them.
This place is hell on earth.
And Captain Thomon says, I agree with you, Erlon. It is hell on earth. Well, not earth, but it is hell. Says, Lady Agatha says, so us at Shadows Hold, we've been trying to make the best with what we have, and we've adopted a suitable lifestyle to try to make things as normal as possible. Just like at home, we have a thriving economy. People have jobs, things to do day to day, things you can buy with your money. And there's food, shelter. During the day, you're free to go on the surface and do as you will. Most go on consignments on the surface to try to accomplish tasks for money for those that need different resources. And she says, word has it, especially if you survived a night with the zombies, you're capable hunters.
We haven't seen anything to kill but zombies. What is there to hunt on this island?
She says, oh, this island is infested with spiders.
Is
And
that
there's-
what we're eating for dinner?
There's a few ogres. And she says, well, Erlon, you've ruined the surprise. Most that come here think it to be some sort of fish. And mind you, the cooks do a good job of seasoning it, but we have grown accustomed to it. It gives us the protein we need.
Where do these zombies come from?
She says, that knowledge is definitely unknown. There are stories and legends that I've heard over the years. Some have spoken words such as the great King Shidal of the Shadow, that he might be the source of this terror that has stricken the islands.
Where does he live?
I do not know, unfortunately, but most likely on the neighboring island. The Forsaken Isles are only 2 islands, this being the first, and island number 2 further to the east, being a much larger, unnavigable island. And she says, that place is much more dangerous than the one that we have decided to build upon here. She says, even though this is close to the sea trolls, we found that this location provides the best protection from the storms. And also because that there's a lot of resources nearby. Although there are some ogres. You always have to be on guard for ogres and when you get to the surface as well.
They say they're even worse when they're zombies.
And she says, oh, you've met the ogre shadow zombies and lived to tell the tale. My, you are really impressing me every moment, Erlon.
I didn't do it alone.
And she says, well, of course not. And she takes a gaze at a ghoul, and she says, some have said that there was an orc traveling with you, but yet I see you are not truly orc, are you? And he nods, and ghoul says, no. My mother is human. And she says, I understand. And she says, I must hear the story someday about how you came into this group. And she looks over and says, and what be your name, sir? And, again, Erlon, you're noticing that she is just completely killing the etiquette, just being just super, super polite. You don't know if she's just, vibrant like that, or if her just being Lady Agatha, like the elder of Shadow's Hold, if maybe she's just, it's habit for her to be kind of over the top. But
Let's see if she's being deceptive in any way.
Sure. Roll an insight.
All right. Oh, man. I can't have a good roll today.
She seems genuine to you. She just seems to be really an optimistic lady. And yeah, so Ghoul replies, my name is Ghoul. And she says, Ghoul. She says, easy enough to pronounce. She says, well, welcome to Shadow's Hold, Ghoul. No doubt your battle of prowess will be of much use here. And then she says, and I've already met your friend Theron over there, quite a unique one at that. And then she continues on. She says, and who might you be? And she looks at Captain Balazar. And he says, I'm Captain Balazar of this Spraying Ogre. And then he kind of looks down, and his eyes kind of glisten with the wetness as he's recounting like maybe some long-lost child that he lost, a child that he lost. And he says, was the captain of the Spraying Ogre, one of the mightiest ships in all of Mysticka. And she says, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. She says, well, so that makes 2 captains now that we have in Shadow's Hold. Captain Thomond here once owned a huge vessel as well. She says, no doubt there's stories for you 2 to tell. She says, and you, sir? And she motions at you, Deadeyes.
Deadeyes will just stare at her and making eye contact and just say in her mind, Deadeyes, rum.
Deadeyes what? Rum?
Rum. Yep.
Rum.
R-U-M.
And she says, that's odd. I do not sense that you did not cast a spell. How is it that you spoke in my head like that?
And not mentally, Deadeyes will say, too much talking, where's the ale? Where's the beer? Where's the rum? Come on.
And she just nods and tilts her head and she says, what are you? And you guys are kind of taken back, like she's like studying him intently, and she just kind of squints her eyes and she says, what are you?
And in her mind, he'll just kind of have like a mental whisper, if that's a thing, and just say mad.
And you see her shift uncomfortably, and you hear back in your mind, well, actually, so did we establish this telepathy thing? Is it 2-way communication or 1-way?
I think we did it 2-way, but I was reading up on more of it, and
I know,
they were saying
me
it's
too.
supposed to be 1-way.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 1-way. So you can implant your voice in people's head, but they can't communicate with you back.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense, because that would imply that you're somehow able, like,
To like read thoughts.
read thoughts.
Yeah, I'm not reading thoughts.
So you're not reading thoughts. So she says, actually, okay, so I take that back. She doesn't say it in your mind. I was only doing that because I think we had agreed that's how it would work. But yeah, after all the further reading I did, it clearly doesn't.
Yeah.
She says,
read a lot more on Warlocks.
She shifts uncomfortably, and you see her pick up a crystal in her hand. She says, tell me this. Do you mean Shadow's Hold or its people harm in any way? And she's like she's looking at you with a level gaze, and you guys can kind of feel the tension in her voice as she is seriously kind of freaked out about something with Deadeyes, and she's just leveling and just saying, do you mean this place or its people any harm in any way whatsoever?
And seeing her hold up that crystal, he just eyes her, and just for the first time, he cracks a huge smile and just starts laughing. And he says, I couldn't care less.
You couldn't care less about Shadow's Hold? Or the people?
Jeez, I thought I was going to be the one to start the fight. Holy crap.
What do you say?
And,
I need to know whether you mean Shadow's Hold.
when she says that, Deadeyes will kind of raise an eyebrow and just say, I don't know what you mean, but I really couldn't care less about the people Shadow's Hold doing any harm to anyone. It just doesn't matter to me.
Lost the will to live?
Well, I'm alive.
And then she looks at you and she says, I see. She says, know this, there is much ale available to drink here at Shadow's Hold. I don't know why, but I feel impressed that you needed to hear that.
And in her mind, Deadeyes will just say, now you're talking.
And she says, well then, so now for the next order. She reaches over and grabs a torch off the wall. And she then goes up to Theron. She says, hold still, please. And she puts the torch kind of next to your face, and she's looking into your eyes. And you're kind of a bit uncomfortable because this, she's old, but she's definitely, she's not ugly. There's some sort of charismatic nature about her, like this overwhelming presence about her that, this commanding presence, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like most good leaders have. And she looks into your eyes and she says, and then she walks over to Ghoul. And after a moment of studying his eyes and asking him to stay still, she looks into his eyes and then,
Is there any way I could use Arcana to figure out what she's doing? No.
No. But I will let you make an intelligence check.
I imagine you have a general idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
Even if not specific.
Yeah. So she looks into Captain Balazar's eyes as well. And he just kind of takes a step back and says, not so close. He says, what are you doing, lady? And she says, just hold still. And she thrusts the torch up near his face, and she's looking into his eyes. And she just nods. And then she gets to you, Deadeyes. And she puts the torch up to your face, and she's peering into your eyes. And it's very awkward at this point because she is looking into his eyes much longer than anyone else. She is just constantly peering into his eyes. And she seems kind of confused, and she rubs her eyes, and then she does it again. And then she kind of gasps a little bit, and she says, I don't understand. And she says, your eyes. And she says, she just looks at you, and she's a little bit, I don't want to say freaked out, but she kind of cautiously steps away from you. And she says, well, and she gets herself together. And Erlen, you say anything?
No.
She says, so, it appears that, well, how many of you have loved ones back at home?
I don't say anything.
Yeah, neither does Theron.
Ghoul says, my mother. And Captain Balazar says, I have family, I have brothers and a sister I'm close to. She says, well, I'm sorry to say, but you guys cannot go back. Even if you were able, it would be much too dangerous to go back home. You see, all of you, except for your friend there, did you ever say your name was Deadeyes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Except for your friend Deadeyes, are infected with the Shadow Plague. In fact, all of us here at Shadow's Hold is infected with Shadow Plague. And she says, what is Shadow Plague, you may ask? She says, I know not about the nature of it exactly, but I do know that it is what is responsible for raising warm-blooded creatures up as these shadow-like zombies on the surface. When the sun goes down and darkness descends upon the land, the shadow zombies come out and decimate anything living. And any warm-blooded creature that dies from these shadow zombies, if they are not consumed by them, eaten, they rise up themselves as a shadow zombie. And when the daylight breaks, they are forced away into the shadows to not return until the next sundown. She says, so Shadow's Hold is on tight lockdown. No one in, no one out, no exceptions outside of sunrise and sunset. Understood? And she looks at you, Theron, and she's waiting for some sort of acknowledgement.
And he gives a nod.
And she says, I don't want any of you thinking of being all heroic and putting the rest of us into jeopardy. We do have the latch and the ladder guarded at all times. She says, it is highly contagious. And you see, if you were able to go home, can you imagine the shadow plague being spread all throughout Mysticka? Can you imagine the turmoil and the death that would cause? She says, so
someone who has never left this island herself to find a cure. That's what I say out loud.
She says, I appreciate your criticism, Erlon. Many of you that have come has had the same criticism. But the truth is, we simply cannot leave. Divine magic does not work here. And if one of us with Shadow Plague were to make it back to Mysticka, it is highly contagious. And if it were to spread, not even the best clerics of the Kingdom of Mysticka could contain it.
And Theron speaks up and he says, and if we did try to leave, would you stop us?
Of course not. She says, as long as you left during the day, of course. She says, you're welcome to go at any time. She says, but know this, if you stay, you will have responsibilities, you will be able to make a living, and you will be able to, during the day, explore. And she says, but if you cause trouble, out the door you go, never to come back. And the doors close at sunset, so if you dawdle and take too long, the doors will close without you. There is no exception to that. So, come now. Dinner must be surely ready by now. Why don't we go eat, and you guys can recover. And you guys can, I will give you a tour of Shadow's Hold, and you guys will be able to spend the rest of the night resting and thinking about whether you do want to stay in Shadow's Hold or try your chances on the surface. What say you? Do you have any other questions for me?
I think not.
And she nods and she says,
Theron has one more question.
okay. He starts to walk and you say, actually,
Hey,
and
lady.
she stops. And she doesn't even say anything. She just gives you a glance and she stops and she's just waiting for you to speak.
And he says, can you guarantee our safety here? Inside Shadow's Hold.
Well, Shadow's Hold has been here for well over 100 years. She says, I can only guarantee it as much as everyone is willing to follow the rules. And then with that, she turns and starts walking away.
Oh, he's going to use an insight check to if she was lying or hiding anything.
No, you're pretty sure that she's dead serious. She's not hiding anything.
Oh, okay. All right.
And oh yeah, actually, sorry, Captain Thomond is going to stay behind, and he says, "Oh, well, I'll lead you to the kitchens, and I'll even actually let me check my notes again real quick. I know it's getting late, so we'll probably call it really soon.
Some dialogue.
You what?
I say we can probably hurry up and try to finish up some of this dialogue unless anyone else objects.
Yeah, so we can start next time doing, I guess, the tour.
So I just want to ask the captain something when she walked away, real quick.
After she walked away?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
I asked him what happens to people who stay out all night and come back the next morning. Are they fine coming in?
Those who stay out all night?
Sure. What if I wanted to stay out all night one night?
People who stay out all night don't come back. And he says, well,
We did.
there was that one group 5 years ago. I forgot about them. They did okay on the surface. In fact, they eventually left saying that they were going to find the cure. And he shrugged and he says, complete nonsense to me, if you ask me. The gods have forsaken this place. What hope is there? And we're in hell. And he says, I'm starving. I'm ready to go eat.
But we could come back if we chose to stay out all night.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. He says, just to be clear, that if you stay out all night, no one's opening a door for you to get back in. You are on your own during the night. But you are welcome to stay out if you think you can survive.
I was just curious.
So real quick, actually, let me speed things up here. So we go to the kitchen, we eat. There's this white flaky meat, and there's some chunks of potato, and there's even some ale, which is potato ale. And it actually tastes really, really good. The potato tastes good. And you know what? We're so hungry.
I don't care about spider. Yeah,
you even try this spider meat, and it actually tastes not too bad. It kind of has a funky little taste to it, but yet there's other spices thrown in with it that it's actually edible. Definitely much better than that slimy weed that we found on the beach. And I don't know, at some point, imagine you kind of tucked away that flour that you put in the water, and you might even give that a little munch, and it kind of tastes a little bit of sweet to it, and it's actually edible, and you don't get sick from it.
Cool.
So with that, after dinner, Captain Thomond gives you a tour of the whole place right before you guys can basically rest for the night. He reminds you that, if you guys just stay in the cells area, you'll be safe. No one's going to come down that way. Everyone else has actual places to stay. They're going to find a place for you to stay. Lady Agatha is, assuming that we all want to stay together in the same room. Most groups that show up to Shadow's Hold do. So, okay. So, I'm going to show you a few things here. So he takes you on this tour, and then I'm going to give experience out because we're easily going to be able to do a long rest. I'm pretty sure tonight no one wants to go out.
No.
We're going to be safe, and I'll give us experience, and then we'll have time until next session to decide for your characters. Like all of us are going to be hitting level 4. Do we want to take the ability score improvement, or do you want to take the feat?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Wait. Sorry,
So you'll get some time to think about that. So let's start off just where we are. Let me make some of this visible here. Actually, I'm just going to remove the whole fog. Okay.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So I'm going to start showing you some stuff here.
Jeez. You could build this crap, but not one stinking freaking boat. Right on.
Like she said, the harbor, dude. They'll just get
The harbor's
destroyed
really
if they
the
build.
only place that you're going to be able to successfully try to build a vessel like that.
Hmm. You learn
And
nothing from Dark Age. You sit there, you kite them with arrows. Keep them coming. There you go.
believe me, if it was that easy, just keep that in mind. If it was that easy, these people would not be stuck here. You know.
Yeah, I know. They're trolls
So,
too. They're gonna regenerate like crazy.
Basically, a lot of times when there's a fight that breaks out, because sometimes there's contention or dissension, disagreements. It's a community of people. Sometimes people fight. A lot of times these cells are, also if they find people on the surface that they really don't trust, that they kind of hold them up here, capture them, hold them here, then they interrogate them. There's a jailer or two that are sometimes positioned here to keep watch. So this jail keeper's rest area is full. There's a couple beds, there's a desk, there's even a table that they can use to game on. It's mainly just for them to be close to the prisoners to keep watch on. As you saw over, I gotta keep switching between the layers here. Okay, so there's just like a portcullis gate here that raises up, and it can be locked and shut. In addition to all these other jail cells, so there's kind of like a double barrier of protection of someone escaping. This, as Captain Tholmond tells you guys, is the judging chamber. Again, in here, there's a bunch of stools and chairs, and that's another thing you notice too, is there's definitely furniture here. Like they've crafted from wood and stuff, like little chairs and desks and furniture. So when there's disputes and whatnot, a lot of times, there's an actual judge in Shadow's Hold that will be a judge, and each party can basically plead their case, and resolutions are found within this chamber. And sometimes troublemakers are sent to the cell to cool off or to serve time, even. And then there's... All right, so this hall in this section, basically people refer to this as the holding cells. So that just includes the judging chamber and the jail keeper's rest area, and then the individual cells that you guys saw. Now, over here, right here, this area here is the latrines. They have, it's basically an outhouse. If you lift up this door it's a hatch, it's like a toilet, and it's just a pit that goes really deep, and it stinks really bad, and that's where people go. Okay? Now, moving on down, this right here is called the living quarters. So the living quarters is pretty vast. There's two main sections to the living quarters. So there is what's called as Nobleman's Hall. As we'll get into later, there's some people here in Shadow's Hold that are in charge of different things, like their managers. The managers basically have secured a position to be on Nobleman's Hall. And all it really means is you notice these slightly bigger cells. They're usually big enough to hold like their friends and their family and stuff like that. They just get a little bit more room. About 6 to 8 people sleep in these bigger ones, and about 5 to 6 people in these smaller ones. But that's called Nobleman's Hall. It's just something to be proud of if you can make it on Nobleman's Hall. Might seem insignificant, but it means a big deal for people who have tried to make a way of life, living here. And then there's the main hall. The main hall is basically your common folk, everyone else. Let me just switch this. Let me show the main hall. Okay, the main hall, again, just a ton of cells. Lady Agatha is going to be moving some people around, and we're going to probably get one of these rooms here in the main hall. They're going to be shuffling people around to make room for us. Now, over here is basically Agatha's chambers is right here. So basically, she has her own chambers. She has family and stuff that stays with her. That S, just it's secret. I don't really care if you guys know because your characters don't. So there's just kind of a, I probably should have kept that hidden actually. Just player characters don't play to what you guys know. Okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Now this section over here, it's all dirt and stuff, it's under construction. They're trying to build more living quarters because they're definitely growing, you know. They have children. You met one such kid, but there's kids and women here. But they're constantly trying to grow and stuff. And this is all dirt, and it's been smoothed out, trying to get it ready for the stone tiles. Okay, now if we make our way over here, this is called the Eatery. Mark this one too. The Eatery, of course, is where everyone goes to eat. If we come... Now, a few things about this space. There's 2 wells that they have dug. So this is called too, also as the meeting hall because it doubles as not only like a large cafeteria type room, but it's also when there's meetings or like there's announcements to be made to the whole community, everyone just meets in the meeting hall. And on the right side, I didn't draw the walls and stuff because, again, like it'd just be. I actually had a lot of fun creating this, but it got to the point where I'm like, okay, this is just good enough. I can spend too much time doing this. On the right side over here, they actually have their own well that they use, and it's called the Eastern Well. And then there's the Western Well, which is over here. And that is available to the general public. Like anyone who wants to go get a drink, there's buckets there. They lower the bucket down further into the ground and it pulls out this fresh water. And you know, you could fill, if you have containers, you can fill them up. Let me just mark that. So there's actually partitions here. There's tables and stuff in an area where people who are responsible for cooking, like chefs and stuff, they work in this kitchen area and they prepare food and they get paid for it. Then there's also an underground garden area, and there's a gardener of the place that's responsible for, in this chamber here, trying to cultivate and grow plants that thrive in darkness, basically. You know, we're all familiar with the Underdark and all sorts of fungi and stuff like that that can grow. Then there's a storeroom. Sometimes with shipwrecks and stuff, some people go on excursions and try to go retrieve some supplies that might exist on some of these beaches and stuff. And when they find extra supplies and stuff, they'll just bring it to the storeroom here. So the storeroom is just full of a bunch of stuff that's used for the community. And then finally, there's this hallway that goes up directly from the meeting hall, and also an adjoining hall over here, which connects to it as well. And this is where everyone pretty much goes to work, and it's called the Workshop District. Now, the Workshop District, you know, this gives people purpose in their lives from day to day to do something and to get paid for it. So we have several things here. We have basically the stonework, the stone workers. Okay. Stone workers. Now this is where, you know, these guys, like all these workers, they will consign other people, like the common people. Like there's stone workers, but then there's people who will be willing to go on the surface during the daytime and go and try to find material and bring it back, and they'll get paid for it. And that's how they make their living, so that they could buy things like tables and chairs and clothing and stuff like that. The stonework, these guys, of course, make all these tiles for the floor and for the construction and stuff. So they're always needing basically a supply of, and again, as Captain Thomond is telling you all this, there's ore in certain rocks that they like to work with and smooth them out, make different things. Then there's woodworking. There's this whole workshop area for all the woodworking for building furniture and desks. Right here is the registry. This is where Lady Agatha spends a lot of her time, and there's a scribe. They basically keep a running history of all of Shadow's Hold, like day-to-day affairs and people's names when they come into the place. And they also keep track of when people want to switch tasks. Like, say, if they were doing stonework and there's issues and they want to go do woodworking, then you kind of go to the registry to see if you can, and if you're approved or whatever, then they record everything. So it's like a massive recording of everything that goes on in Shadow's Hold. And like people's responsibilities, there's also, all that kind of stuff, clerical type stuff. And then finally there is textiles. So this is where they make, bags and, backpacks and all sorts of things. Over here, off to this direction, is the most recent completed addition to Shadow's Hold. And again, it's called Shadow's Hold because the Shadow pretty much holds everyone prisoner here. Like, they can't leave, mainly because of the Shadow Plague and because of, if you were to try to build something on the surface, then chances are it's probably going to get destroyed during the nighttime. It's really hard to get things done on the surface if it's going to take more than a day. This is something they're very proud of, and it's called the library. They've acquired over 120 years worth of, tomes and books that they've found, and most of these people have come from Mysticka, not born here. They actually were shipwrecked. They know that wizards like towers and circular rooms, and so they tried to make it feel more like at home by building these circular little sections, and they're just lined with books. And it's kind of meager compared to a lot of the libraries you've seen in Mysticka, Erlon, but definitely for a place, it is kind of impressive. There's an assortment of books, and there is one section here, right here to the south. This room right here is just full of the clerical works of the registry. So you could look up history of Shadow's Hold, for the past 100 years by reading books in here.
Is there knowledge of the island in there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the library contains all sorts of stuff. Yep, yeah. Everything that they know is in there. And not everyone has really spent the time to read through all those books. A lot of people have given up hope about leaving the island, like Captain Thomond. He's kind of accepted, yeah, this place sucks. I hate it. It's hell. But what am I going to do? I'm infected with the Shadow Plague. And I can actually, I have responsibility here. It's like, what am I going to do? Now, this area definitely caught Ghoul's attention. This is the training ground. So they actually have a head trainer guy for combat. Everyone here in Shadow's Hold receives extensive training, especially if they're going to be a hunter or doing anything to go on the surface to do consignment work. They have to receive training first. So they have to be adept at both shooting a bow or with missile weapons of some kind and fighting with the sword. And you do see definitely blood smears and stains all over the training ground here. There's test dummies set up, like little wooden blocks and crap, little targets and stuff. But there's sparring matches. Also, the training ground is for duels. Sometimes when people conflict with each other and they want to fight to get resolution, then a lot of times they'll gather here and a lot of people just crowd around almost like arena style and watch the fight as they duel it out. So, finally, but not least, the last section of this place is called Metalworkers, or the Metalworks. There is the weaponry and the armory. And there's also, I didn't mark it, but right here is, right here is a pretty big forge that when they do work, both the, there's a couple different forges actually right here, and both the weapon people and the armory people use the same forge because it's more efficient, you know, to melt down ore and stuff. And, you know, if we were to find like rocks and stuff that could be smelted down for ore, you know, these metal workers would definitely like to get that, and you'd get paid for it. Textiles, there's some spiders called mole spiders. It's actually what we had for dinner. These giant mole spiders, they burrow into the ground, and not only is their meat, they have a lot of meat on their legs, but their ichor that they have is this dark greenish color, and actually use that with their textiles to pretty much stain everything dark green. And it's almost kind of a symbol, symbolic thing with Shadow's Hold. It's kind of camouflage, which is good. So they're stealthy, but also, you know, it's that dark green color. You know, they make a dye with it. So they also, the textile lady, I have her name, but I won't look it up right now. But she will pay basically a gold piece per vial of this blood from these spiders. And yeah, and there's weaponry and armor. You know, they have some for sale. People who want to go find, you know, buy like a better weapon or better armor. You know, you work, save up the money, you can go buy it. You know, these people get paid. You know, consigners that work with these people, they get paid. Like, so it's this big old thriving economy down in this Shadow's Hold. And that's it. So that was the tour. Any questions?
It's a lot.
The fact that you went to so much detail in this place means we're going to be here for a while.
Yes, and sorry to say, but because we were 41 hit points away from defeating that last tentacle, we took a huge detour in the main story that I had planned. All those events are still going to happen. We're just not going to be around to witness it. But eventually when we do get back, if we can get back, I should say, yeah, things are going to be quite a bit different at home. But yeah, this is pretty much our safe haven.
Well,
Well, for you guys, I'm not infected, so I'm gonna go swim back home. See you guys.
Yep.
Good luck.
Deadeyes isn't infected, so.
Right.
Although, by the way, Deadeyes, every night that you spend here, or every day that you spend in Shadow's Hold, you're gonna have to make a Constitution save, because it is contagious. So you might pick it up from us.
Yeah.
In fact, because we're going to go ahead and just say we complete a long rest, you know, when we get our experience points and stuff, so it'll be morning when we wake up. Why don't you go ahead and roll it right now? Okay, yeah, you saved. You didn't get it. All right, so for experience points, we got 2,200 experience points. So Erlen, that means we have 3,612.
And I have 3,462.
Yep, and I think Deadeyes has the same amount as you.
3462.
Now to hit 5th level, we need 6,500 experience.
No problem.
Let's go kill the trolls.
Yep.
Those aren't just trolls. Those aren't just seed trolls. Those are 5th edition seed trolls.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
I think you wait till 5th level to screw with those trolls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so
we could all roll hit points.
yeah, so let's do it one at a time. So yeah, Ghoul's level 4 now. Okay, who wants to roll hit points first? You get to choice, take the safe average for your hit dice, or you get to roll 2 of that hit dice size and take the higher number. Hello?
Not me.
Sorry. I'm gonna
Who
roll.
wants to roll first? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it, Erlon.
You
So
rolled
could
2
do,
of them, right?
Yeah, so you could do 2d8 KH1.
That's what I did.
Yep.
So
Good job. 8 more hit points for you. So you now have
35.
35.
All right, I'll do mine.
Minus 3. So 30.
I'm gonna roll.
Go for it, Theron.
Okay.
Nice. 6. 6 more.
So I'm at
So
25 max.
You have 25.
So
Okay,
I currently
Deadeyes.
have 24 hit points. Right?
Deadeyes gets d8 plus 1. So 7.
7, not too bad.
So you have 30 hit points. Okay. And I'm afraid for this. I don't know why. Gosh, maybe I should take the safe average. I'm rolling d10s. D10s are never good to me.
That's
All
true.
right. I gotta roll, though. I mean, the chances are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, here we
would.
go. 2d10 20 plus. At least I get to add 2. Here we go. Oh,
Oh,
it was
man.
almost that 10.
Should have gone with your gut, I guess.
I should have taken the safe average. I would have had 1 more hit point.
Yeah. That's all right.
No, wait. No, I would have had 6,
more.
I think, is the safe. I would have
Yeah,
had
I
2
think
more hit
6.
points. Oh, well. It is what it is. So I got 6 more. 37. Wow, Erlon, you have only 2 less hit points than me, and I'm a fighter.
Nice.
Nice. That sucks.
No, that's awesome for me, though.
Yeah, that's awesome for you. It sucks for me.
I have more hit points than average.
Oh, I'm going to roll for the captain here.
So 8 times 4 is 32, man. I have 35 hit points. So
Okay.
I have done well.
Wow.
Oh, I'm above the average too.
I'm way above the average for me. Like
Dude,
10.
I'm over max. Like what my max would be. Well, with my hit point or my constitution adjustment, that has helped.
Yeah.
I mean, still,
All
if
right,
you figure
so
48, that's 32 hit points. I'm at 35.
All right, so I think
we'll
call it here now because you guys can have a full week to decide whether you want to take an ability score adjustment or a feat.
Yeah.
But put some careful thought into it.